hello again. Yeah, there's a story with this hat, but you'll have to hear about it just a little bit because it's in the story. This is Mule Days and Coyote Encounter. I have been contemplating the title of this story. I originally intended it for it to be Mule Days in the Deep South. My son and family live in the Deep South. There's a special day in the fall they have down there called Mule Days. This event has been going on for nearly 50 years. My grandsons and daughter-in-law just love going to it. But you notice I didn't say nothing about my son? No, he goes deeper in the swamp. This is not his idea of fun. They picked me up at the airport and briefed me on what to expect at Mule Days. This is a very rural area, and where they have this Mule Days, there's a post office, there's a grocery store, and not hardly anything. They're in two churches, okay. But Mule Days brings 90,000 people, to the deep south of Georgia. They spread out for a couple of miles in all those abandoned, what used to be plantation fields. I don't say they're abandoned, but they're not really using them for that much. It is very laid-back atmosphere with hundreds of vendors. The usual food vendors with all kinds of southern food. It's awesome. The arts and craft vendors are placed among the food vendors. I took a picture of about 500 turkey legs on the biggest grill I've ever seen in my life. Some vendors, though, are like for entertainment. There was a young man there named Cole Tucker. He was only 12 years old. This story's written a few years back. He was one of the best ventriloquists I've ever seen in my life. I know one day you will see him on TV. My grandsons just became absolutely fascinated with the talents of this young man. And he was so polite and had such good manners. This seems to be a trend, and especially in the rural part of the Deep South. They do not say yeah, no, or yes and no. Everyone is answered with yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. It doesn't matter what your age is. They show respect for each other. I do believe the rest of us folks across the country could learn something from the good manners and the respect those in the Deep South show to each other. Mule Days has a long parade made of, guess what, mostly mules. And some horses. There's a few horses in there. I have never in my life seen mules, I grew up around mules, this big. I mean, they're gigantic. But they say there are some of those big old mules were used on the plantations back when they didn't have, that was what they had to use to farm. Tractors weren't available. The mules they would be pulling wagons. Wonderful. The police just went down the street with a siren. We live in a real town here, okay? I can't believe that's going to go on for 3 days out there, but what do we do? I guess we just let it go. All right. There was one big old mule just walking down through there, and he kept shaking his head, just shaking his whole body. And one of his pretty orange flowers fell into the street. When there was a small space in between where the mules were walking, my son Zeb fetched that posy for me. He said, "Crazy Grandma?" That's what they call me, "Here's a flower for your cowboy hat." And here it is, folks, right there. That's the one he took. The mule dropped and I got on my hat, still got on there. I immediately put that flower on my hat and wore it with pride the rest of the day. My other grandson found a little flower too, and I hate to say it, but I think I might have lost it. But he was trying to do the same thing, but kind of decorate Grandma's hat. I was also able to go hunting with my son and grandsons deep in the swamp for wild hogs and deer. I so enjoy the quality time I spend with them. They didn't kill either in my presence, but that wasn't really important to me. I have no problem at all with people harvesting animals. I grew up on a farm, and I think God put these animals on earth for us folks to eat. I just enjoy stepping out into the real world once in a while with my grandsons. I find a special peace when you're enveloped and surrounded by nothing but nature. The rushed hustle and bustle of the other world just seems to be pretty far away then. One evening, Zeb and I were in a camouflage blind, quietly enjoying those jars of peanuts. You become so aware of every small noise when you're in a setting like that. A leaf falling on a tarp roof will make you look outside to see what's going on. And let me tell you, a squirrel can sound like a 12-point buck when it runs around out there. You know something big's out there, and it's a squirrel. My son this evening was hunting across the 2,000-acre plantation with his youngest son, Wyatt. It got too dark to see any game before he picked us up. We were sitting waiting to hear the jeep coming when every nerve in our bodies were put on alert by a pack of coyotes announcing their presence. The hairs on the back of your neck stood up and felt like they did anyway. This serenade made me aware that we had wandered into somebody else's territory. Zeb looked at me, signaling a little motion, patted his gun. In other words, he was saying, "I got your back, Grandma." This was a special moment for the two of us when your grandson's there to protect you. I asked Zeb, I said, "Zeb, you know what an intruder is?" He said, "I think so, Grandma." Well, he said, "Tell me." I explained to him that intruder is someone that when you go onto someone else's property where you don't have permission, you're an intruder. He shook his head as I explained that to him, and I said, "You know what? We were the intruder in the coyotes' territory. That's what that was all about, them letting us know that we were someplace we shouldn't be." I spent another special evening with Zeb 20 feet off the ground in a tree stand. Let me tell you about this event. We were enjoying them good old jars of peanuts, cracking them very quietly. We hadn't seen any wildlife yet when I developed this little tickle in my throat from a peanut skin. And at the same time, I discovered I had forgotten my bottle of water. I whispered to Zeb, "Give me a drink out of your canteen." With clenched teeth, he politely said, "No, Grandma, it's my water." I pleaded, "Please, just one little drink." He looked at me, puzzled, didn't know what to do. Well, I got on my soapbox, and I explained to that boy that I thought we was all better off when we all drank out the same drinking cup, that built up our immune systems, that we would all be healthier if now everybody has to have their own drinking cup. Well, I'm telling you something. I might as well repeated the Gettysburg Address to that kid. He didn't have a clue what I was talking about. I could tell on his face that he was confused about the whole thing. But when you're that far off the ground, 20 feet, you can't walk in the other room when you have a disagreement with whoever you're sharing that 3-foot bench with. So there I sat. So I turned my body around all the way, opposite of him. I soon felt this little nudge at my side as he handed that water, his canteen of water, to me. I took it from his reluctant hand. As he watched me like a red-tailed hawk, let me tell you, he kept his eyes right on the mouth of that canteen. I poured a capful of water into the lid, tilting my head back. I poured it in my mouth without letting it touch my lips. The cough stopped. I handed the bottle back to the canteen back to Zeb and politely thanked him for his kindness. We then waited for the sound of that gator and my son and Wyatt to come pick us up. Zeb made sure when we come down out of that tree stand that he walked behind me with the light showing so I could make every step okay. thing he was trying to make up, you know. Well, anyway, I'm telling you what, when we finally saw that gator sitting across in the swamp, in the creek there, it looked like a limousine to me. I was so glad to see it. But anyway, the airplane trip to and from Mule Days, the coyote encounter, sharing the water bottle, and writing this story has become a wonderful memory to me. Zeb and Wyatt, I hope, 50 years from now, they can read this story. Or better yet, there might be an old CD laying around with my voice telling this story about the experience they had with their crazy grandma.